greatest devastations in human history. The fronts were locked in trenches, and machine guns and artillery fire pinned soldiers to their positions. To break this deadlock, the British decided to create something entirely new, an armored land vehicle. This was the birth of the modern tank. In 1915, a secret committee was established within the British Admiralty. It was called the Landships Committee. Its purpose was to design a vehicle that could cross enemy trenches and withstand machine gun fire. Because the project was classified, the vehicles were given the code name water tanks. And for the first time in history, a weapon's name came directly from its code name, tank. In 1916, the British produced their first tank, the Mark I. It had a tracked structure, thick armor, and machine guns. It was heavy and slow, but revolutionary enough to change the course of war. The Mark I was first used on September 15, 1916, at the Battle of the Somme. Most tanks got stuck in the mud or broke down mechanically. But to the German soldiers on the front lines, these strange iron monsters were terrifying. Moving over trenches and mud, they seemed unstoppable. The psychological impact of tanks was far greater than their mechanical flaws. In 1917, British engineers created a more advanced model, the Mark IV. This version was used for the first large-scale attack at the Battle of Cambrai. About 400 tanks were deployed at once. And for the first time in history, tanks were used as an independent offensive force. This marked the beginning of armored warfare doctrine. David Fletcher describes this period as the mechanical age of experimentation. Every model brought a new lesson. The Mark II and III improved the transmission, the Mark IV had thicker armor, and the Mark V introduced single-driver control and a semi-automatic gearbox. These innovations became the foundation of future tank design. Inside the tank, however, was a completely different world, narrow, airless, scorching, and dangerous. Exhaust fumes, gunpowder smoke, and constant vibration made life unbearable. Fletcher writes about the hardship of the crews with these words: to fight inside a tank was to stand on the thin line between burning alive in steel and being a hero. As tank warfare intensified, disagreements arose within the British Army. Some commanders believed tanks should only support infantry. But younger officers thought differently. J.F.C. Fuller and Basil Liddell Hart argued that tanks could act as an independent force. They believed that future wars would be won by fast and mobile armored units. Their ideas would later inspire the German concept of blitzkrieg. The British success also pushed Germany into action. In 1918, the Germans produced their own tank, the A7V. That same year, at Villiers-Bretonneux, history witnessed the first tank versus tank battle. 3 British Mark IVs faced 1 German A7V. This event became one of the key turning points in armored warfare history. When the war ended, the British still believed in the tank's future. But during the peacetime that followed, budgets were cut and the army was reduced. Many tanks were stored away or scrapped. Yet some engineers continued their work. In the 1920s, new models such as the Vickers Medium Mark I and Mark II were developed. These tanks were lighter, faster, and more fuel efficient. Tank design was now being measured not only by toughness, but also by speed and mobility. By the 1930s, the British Army classified tanks into 3 categories: infantry tanks, cruiser tanks, and light tanks. Infantry tanks were slow but heavily armored. Cruiser tanks were fast and agile, suitable for reconnaissance and maneuver warfare. Light tanks were mainly used for training and scouting. This classification would form the basis of Britain's armored doctrine in the Second World War. Fletcher concludes with an important observation. The tank is not merely a weapon. It is an invention that fundamentally changed the way wars were fought. It gave movement to armies trapped in trenches and united technology with strategy. The First World War was the birthplace of the tank, but its true maturity would come in the Second World War. The author ends with this memorable line: "The tank was born from mud, but it started the engine of the modern age." Indeed, without those heavy Mark I tanks of 1916, modern armored forces as we know them today might never have existed. The story of the tank is therefore not only the story of steel and machines, it is the story of how human ingenuity pushed the boundaries of possibility.